Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out for an hour today. We are going to be building on the conversation that we actually started a couple of months back. And so it's going to take a little bit to sort of reorient, and some of you were not in the initial conversation, Nick and Mark, so I want to sort of reorient a little bit. But essentially what we talked about is that we would really like to move from a conversation about a one-to-one device ratio, where we are saying there's one student per one device, to a one-to-one relationship, where the student has a actual relationship with the resources that are available to them in the one-to-one environment, whether that's the space that they are within, or the tools that they are using on the computer, or that they get to choose even the device that they have. And so we looked a little bit initially at which of our schools are close to it on the ratio side of things, and we actually have more than 10 schools who, by the numbers, have the devices for a one-to-one. Yes?
More than 10 schools that by ratio.
Yes.
Wow.
We actually have 25 schools that are within striking distance, meaning that within this bond plan, they would also be. And so,
Very interesting.
exactly, and that's not sort of the story necessarily that we are telling one another, that we are all close. We have representation from a school who has been there for a while, as the online school, who has been one-to-one sort of since day one. But how is it that we can move from that ratio conversation to the relationship? And what we talked about initially was, all right, well, we're going to have to start noticing and naming what it means to go from the ratio of, all right, I have enough computers in my room because of that cart over there to say that we are at one-to-one. Going from that to now my students actually are making choices for their learning based upon the fact that they have access to that card. And going from access to usage. So we talked a lot about how do we sort of change from that very passive way of looking at, well, the computers are there and we're going to use them for whatever the teacher directs the students to do, versus we are going to move to where the students are a little bit doing more of the direction there. And so what we want to do today is actually create an experience where you feel what it is like to be in both places. Where you feel what it is like to have a teacher-directed experience of using these devices. And we are we're in much more than one-to-one, because I see that everyone's brought like 3 or 4 different devices. And so we are going to have an experience where you see both sides of this, and we're going to talk about what it felt like to be in that place. And we're also going to then be talking about, well, what do we need in order to be able to move? So before we do any of that, for those of you who were not able to join us on the first conversation, or who just would like to ask questions and sort of get a frame, I would love for you to do so at this point before we sort of launch into the experience itself. There he is. Welcome, welcome. I think it was all the emails that I sent. So we are going to start with the from part of this equation. And, oh, you can't see that. That's less fun. Let's try this again. Thinking about it. There we go. All right. So what we are going to do is, on the page where you are, we are going to talk about the from experience. And the reason why I unlocked and opened up all of these Chromebooks is what I would like you to do is log in as yourself or open up a guest experience this is the device that I am telling you you have to use. You have to use this Chromebook, and you need to go to those 3 websites, abcia.com, starfall.com, and typing.com. That is the experience that I would like you to see. And what I would like you to do while you are there is think about what it feels like to be a learner, where I told you to go to these websites and have that particular experience. Notice what is on those particular websites. Okay? What is the experience like for you? Those are the 3 websites that I would like you to experience on a Chromebook that is not your own. Okay? It's going to take about 10 minutes to have the From experience. Here, let me make it a little bit bigger.
Oh, really?
So these ones right here, ABC, Starfall, and typing.com. Notice the sounds happening in the room.
That's
Yeah.
so bogus. That's terrible. It gave me a wrong answer.
How's that true?
Didn't let me add 2 fractions to add 2.
Hello. And welcome. We are having a
When I use different denominators, you
Yeah.
can feel it.
do you want to
Yeah,
Clearly.
Funny game.
so we are doing a student experience. Okay. So we're going to ABC, Starfall, or typing.com, and experiencing what it is like in many of our classrooms, doing an activity on a Chromebook that is not. Okay? You're just gonna keep playing the game? You're nailing it?
Yeah.
I'm hopeful
Is it
that you
good?
will be able
Yeah,
to.
Are you playing ballet over there tonight?
Yeah, I'm playing the Nutcracker.
All right.
Boy.
These are 3 websites that are in use in our schools right now. Some schools use them more than others. And I have seen all 3 within at least one classroom around our district.
I think this one's good.
Okay.
You should call your little
Or just plug it in.
Well, one of those 2 will be fine.
Oh my. It's like those movies, Roman Gladiator movies in the watch.
Mhm.
It's like, hey now.
Yeah, I used to learn all the math. Yeah,
Testing your typing speed here.
Hey, what's going on?
All right, take maybe 3 more minutes, and if you haven't gone to one of the other ones, try a couple of the other ones.
Greek midside.
Oh, this is-
Did you get an ad, Jim? Yeah.
What's the capital under?
sorry, I'm looking at it.
Zorn Bator? Manaba? I don't know, I'm just guessing.
Oh, nifty.
What's that? Go for typing.
Word problems. First grade.
yeah, that's true.
Maybe I used,
Not
I'll use
very-
this at home. I went through that one there.
Counting help. Click and drag the objects above the dotted line to count them. Drag them below the dotted line to remove them. Emily has a bag of jelly beans. She has 10 red, 7 blue, 4 orange,
How do you turn it off?
The sound?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
How many jelly
Oh, yeah, you
beans
can do
are
that
there
too.
altogether?
Yeah.
Emily has a bag of
If you
jelly
go down
beans.
here,
She
all of
has
the settings
10
and stuff,
red,
right?
Oh, there
7
we go.
blue,
Okay.
4 orange,
Do you want to move the camera around? I need to know the capital.
Super important.
Anyone? Anyone?
All right, this is now the end of the period. You have to shut your Chromebook. You have to. It's the end of the period. It's got to go back in the thing.
Someone's teacher's pet.
Close it. Close it.
I have no qualms about closing somebody else's.
All right. So this is a device that is not your own. It is only for that particular class period. When we're done, we're done. Okay? Clearly, you would have logged out probably if this was the end of the period and I'd remind you and things like that. I would like you to write down what that experience was like for you as a learner. What is your relationship to this device and the things that I asked you to do? And if you want to put on your educator hat as well, you can do that too. But I'd like you to think about yourself as a learner in that experience. Mm-hmm. All right, now you gotta talk to another living human being about it. All right, you're gonna pick somebody. It's okay if it's next to you. It's okay if it's across. Talk to another living human being about what your experience was.
So
Got it.
Okay, what do we got?
Yeah, so I got
Like in the middle of a level.
Yeah. The software, the program. Okay, cool. All right.
And then the title.
I felt lonely and isolated.
Oh, that's.
I couldn't tell if I had an account for this
Yeah. So it said, did I want to start?
Right.
I want to go learn how to run jelly beans.
That's right. I'm going to I said it was a hotel. I didn't know one. Okay. I had to figure out if it's just.
I was quite.
Oh, so obviously like even like.
Like I was big into.
I was able to go through all three of them. Like the first one I did, and I was like,
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I mean,
I like that.
for a level, but
And then I put, kind of close though, some of it's like just even if they're really being terms.
I did.
I don't know, there was a couple of things.
I was more interested in about making my
I mean, it
career
was
make
pretty
sense.
intuitive,
Than
but,
I was engaged.
yeah, I just had to.
And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I found the things that looked the least like school. I mean, like the first game I played was called Dogs in Space or something, and it was under the puzzle or strategy category. I didn't want the reading, the math. I was like, okay, what's actually going to be kind of fun? And then I ended up with Fruit Ninja typing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
So I actually think my own intellect, I found things
Yeah.
that were,
Yeah.
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 I don't know, had there been a teacher in the room, had they really
And I've seen that in classrooms.
All right, let's bring it together now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of feedback.
What was the experience for you in a word or phrase?
Inconvenient.
Inconvenient? Uncomfortable.
Hotel.
Hotel.
Video game.
Video
Yeah,
game?
Yeah.
In a word or phrase, what was the experience like for you, Mark?
I thought that was the phrase.
Oh, what's happening could work too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just floating. I didn't really engage with anything. Unengaged. Disengaged. There we go.
Yep. What else?
I had fun.
Okay.
Were you the oi?
No, I turned my sound off.
That
Gotcha.
was when my boy, sorry.
I heard distracted a couple of places from different sounds. Okay. I really liked your thought around, I looked for the things that were least like school and clicked on them.
Yeah, I
That was
was
kind of
looking for the
interesting.
games or the things that I could do that didn't look like school.
Okay.
I'd echo that. My number one motivation was to entertain myself.
Mm-hmm.
I felt unchallenged.
But you could have challenged yourself. Why didn't you?
Oh, I did. I tried. I told John eventually I got to the point where I was trying to challenge myself to make as much noise as possible to distract everybody.
It worked.
Yeah.
Tchaikovsky and oi.
So now put on your educator hat a little bit. Where would you put this on sort of, if you were thinking about level of rigor or the questions that you were being asked?
That was so good.
What'd you say?
Not being an educator, I said this looked like something parents would give their kids on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them busy.
Babysitter.
Yeah.
Yep, babysitter, keeping kids busy, those kinds of things,
Stall
right?
for a minute while I make that coffee.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No
Okay.
real expectation that I was going to get anything out of that.
Yeah.
Really.
You didn't have that expectation, and possibly the teacher didn't either, right? So I think that there could be valuable components in maybe each one of those, but thinking about sort of, and now go to abc.com and go and click on something is about the amount of instruction that would sort of present this experience, right? So that's the From experience. Now what I would like you to do is on a device of your own choosing, it could be still the Chromebook, but on a device of your own choosing, I would like you to either go to Spark So spark.adobe.com, or if you're on a phone or tablet, you can download the app. You can go to tack.com, tackk.com, or download the app, or go to code.org, and I'd like you to use a device of your own choosing to do so. We're going to spend another about 7 minutes doing that, and we're going to look at maybe the difference between those two experiences on a device of your choosing.
No.
We're judging. Yeah, totally.
Actually, if anyone's interested, I just tomorrow morning the Metallica tickets going sale.
I saw
They're coming to
that.
Denver. I've never. That's like a bucket list.
Where are they going?
In Vesco.
Oh, wow.
The sports arena or whatever it's called. Yeah.
So this 2 summers ago, I had a silent retreat, and then I went to go see Alice Cooper and Metallica.
Oh, wow. It's fun.
Ah.
Silent retreat.
What's that? I know. Right? I'm a little. I mean, that's really totally bad.
It was so.
All right, if you are ready to do so,
Without the anger, it's just.
Okay, I'm ready to get started.
you may have some different reflections than other folks.
Yes.
If you are ready to do so, would you write on a different sticky note what your experience was here? What is your relationship to the device and the things that I asked you to do? Oh, that's pretty good. Eloquent.
Wait, but I persisted.
Yes. Perseverance.
Hashtag
Self-direction.
persistent. Yes.
Have you seen that webpage? Or the Facebook page?
So happy. I want the shirt.
Kevin.
Wow, I got a big piece of that. Making a belt on there.
Yep. Fully engaged. Totally.
It's good.
All right. What did you write on your sticky note?
I'm slow.
I'm slow. Why did you write that?
Because this is as far as I got.
Because it took you a while to get up and running.
Yes,
Okay. But you got to do it on your own
I did.
device and you persisted.
Yep.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
What did you write, Lori?
I had no idea what this was or what I was supposed to do with it, but
Okay.
then Boo gave me context when he said, oh, we use that. So then I knew, oh, it must be some sort of newsletter-y thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm finding that there's a video, like there's some exemplars that I didn't see before, so.
Okay.
Well,
I was in a similar place with the tack. I was like, okay, what is this? I didn't know if I was on Pinterest or like the next version of Pinterest. I don't know what it felt like. And I found a cool post about interiors of houses. So that aspect, I feel like I had a lot more choice of where, like I found an entry point that was
Yours.
acceptable for me.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Desmond?
The device didn't matter, based on where I went, what I did, but it really didn't matter. What I did was, I looked at 3 selections you gave me, I opened up all 3 of them. The first one that came up is the first one I went to, which was code.
Yep.
So that appealed, and then I just kind of went to what my interest was, as far as coding and Star Wars, and didn't know the story, I just went with it.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
I put
Rand?
down that,
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I think if I'm comparing like the website, it didn't matter, the device didn't matter, I didn't have any technical issues or no problem with anything, so that didn't matter, as far as that was concerned. I thought the second group of websites were better for cooperative group learning, they could be more engaging, and then the first ones were just kind of individual driven kind of websites, so But I got ideas from the second websites of like things they could do together and communication between students and things like that. So.
Yeah.
I know the feeling is, it's hard for me to mimic, but in that first, the idea of closing the computer and it's gone. The second one, if I'm into something, I know that, okay, fine, I gotta pack up and go to a different room, but there's a good chance I'm gonna open it up and keep doing.
Yeah.
If I'm not ready to stop, I don't have to stop knowing that I can take this with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's just having the comfort of your own house.
Mm-hmm.
That, I can access my pictures on here, I can access, things that I have put on here that are mine to enhance whatever activity I'm doing. Has been, that was part of the experience.
Yeah. How many of you use the second experience to create something?
Okay. Well.
Ish, right?
I put a word on it.
Okay. And when you're thinking about, so put your educator hat back on, or your approximation of an educator hat. What's the difference? What's the difference between asking a child? Now, clearly, I think in both cases, you would give better instructions than what I actually ended up giving, right? Like, we're strapped for a much smaller amount of time, perhaps. There's no connection to last lesson or next lesson. But what's the difference?
The first ones, I could have put those things on a worksheet and it would have really done the same thing. The second ones were interactive where you're actually, you're using the tools and the tools are important. You couldn't do them without the tools. I think the first ones, really, the tool wasn't necessarily important. It was just, you maybe just do it for the sake of doing it on a device. The second ones, you need the device. And it's actually interactive and you're communicating and you're sending things to different places, so that's what I got from it.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought the first one was more consumption, and the second one was more creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creation and sharing versus just consuming and interacting with what's there, whereas the second one I got to create whatever I wanted. Took a minute to figure out, just like John was talking about, where am I, what is this, how does it work? But it was about creating, coming up with something from scratch.
Nice. Bev, what do you think about it?
A lot of what has already been said. I think the purpose, like you said, you didn't give a real clear purpose for either one, so that was missing from both. But I'm not sure with the first one, the use of that technology enhanced that much. Maybe it was just the limited exploration, but like the one I looked at sort of had a virtual low-level book, and I'm like, gosh, I'd rather have a real book. It was sort of unsatisfying, you know what I mean? It was like, it was worse to do it here than what a sort of quote-unquote real experience would have been. Whereas the second one, it felt like, gosh, you could create a product that would be really appealing from it. And so the technology enhanced the work instead of diminishing it.
Mark, you sort of expressed that initially in saying, like, I'd much rather just be doing something away from the computer versus on the computer in that case. Is that how you continue to feel sort of into the second experience, or did it change for you?
Shifted a little. I mean, my persona as a learner is a little bit of a brat because I'm going to do what I want to do. And I was real good at that, K-12 and beyond, of I'm going to come to class and only engage in learning if you make me or if I'm interested. And while the second set of websites I can recognize as better, I'm still just being a brat until you give me something to do. You know what I mean? Now so the second set of websites was absolutely more engaging. There's no question about that. But in terms of like, I still need there to be, that wasn't enough. Just a better website by itself wasn't enough to really get me to think and produce and I'm still just kind of waiting for something to do, entertaining myself until there's something that I perceive as meaningful.
It's a really good point, right? Like, without support from a teacher or a peer or someone pushing you,
Yeah.
right, you're still going to do maybe the least common denominator out of those things.
Yeah.
And I am wondering about that purpose and also what support with the tech is needed, because when I now reflect on the sites, the first 3, I logged on and I can immediately know what to do. Okay, I can click here, I can play a game, I knew no problem. This one, I spent majority of the time just trying to figure out what I'm looking at. Like, what's the purpose of this? What's it used for? I didn't get even to the little pencil to create something until you showed me that, because I was too busy trying to figure out what it was I was looking at. And so just the considerations that, yes, it has the ability to create a product and is more collaborative, but what supports are needed.
And possibly
to
you
make
need
it-
more supports, right?
I would agree.
In order to
Yeah.
create things or in order to find value in the more creation that needs to take place, right? Collaboration is not as easy as I'm going to click on a Flash game and enter in the capital of whatever, right? Like that. Cameroon.
What is
right?
it?
So that is that is the from to experience, right? So where we want to sort of think about is in our schools, are we looking at a from experience where students are engaged in whether it's a babysitting activity or at the very least it is something that does not require the technology, but you're using it because it is there. I think you said that really well, Bev. In that you're saying like, well, this is substituting for what we have done on a worksheet previously, right? And rather than having a worksheet station, it's much more engaging to have the computer station, okay? And looking at when we move to a place where it does actually require us to use these tools. It does ask us to support the collaboration. It does ask us to move beyond just substitution into tasks that were not previously possible. I mean, thinking about what Rand was talking about, can I add an image that I took? I took this photograph of my community and I'm adding it to something that we are creating and the cultural relevance that comes from that, right? And making sure that that is the component that we are supporting and moving to. So what I would like, and this was sort of a component of the initial conversation, how do we capture what we are doing in our schools that is either in support of one side of that equation or the other? And thinking fairly critically about how do we actually do some actions to actually move us towards that too. And the way I'd like to sort of frame this is we've been working very hard on the way we talk about the story of what the two looks like, where we actually want to be. So even though we have 10 schools that are currently at a ratio of 1-to-1 and within the bond spending we are probably closer to 25 that could be there sort of by the numbers, where is the 2 that we actually want to get to? And so Kevin, Lori, myself, Bev, many of us have been thinking about what does it actually look like and how do we tell that story. So I'd like to share a little bit of that with you and then talk about what we need to do next. Okay? So it starts with the student. We started our first conversation with the student, and this is definitely where we want to head, where the student has 24/7 access to the tools for creation, for collaboration, and that they are accessing it on a personalized device that they have access to as often as they would like it. They might not always need it, but that as often as that they would like it, and all of their assignments and resources are in a place that they understand and that is available to them via the internet. That they can actually go to a physical location, and this is where spaces will come in when we talk about what do those spaces need to look like in order to be able to support that. But those are library spaces with physical resources. Those are blended learning spaces where you can go and get support of a teacher. Those are the spaces where we can say, what are the resources you need in order to learn, and that we actually create the space around that. That those spaces are for collaborating and not just consumption. So we are making things, we are problem solving, we are solving things out in the community, and that we are doing that together in a learning network of peers, of fellow experts, where we actually have access to not just the one teacher, your fourth grade teacher, but all of the teachers in the building, or fourth grade teachers around the district, where you are, I always can't do this, but it's hanging them out in to the classroom, doing a hangout with them in the classroom. It's just easier to say Skyping them. And so really using the resource of the people and creating the network, where students own their data, they understand who they are as a learner and make choices about that, but they understand what they need to work on, and they are working their own plan in order to support their learning. Where they are sharing constantly and continually, so the things that they are creating, whether that's in a portfolio or simply with their teacher and their fellow students, they are sharing that and getting feedback so that they can continue to be better. The experience that we just had, you sort of set the bar for yourself, right? There was no one who was saying, no, do that Valentine better, Ran, right? There's no one who is supporting you with feedback. And so how can we actually support the kids in that space where they are using their skills and being credentialed in those skills, so that when you go on and you are doing the BB-8 Star Wars coding, that actually means something and translates into, oh, I actually do have some understanding of coding, or I do have some literacy understanding, or I do have some, whether it's mathematics, and sort of driving towards students owning their learning and being able to say, I can demonstrate that I have learned this. And that is all in the effort to move the boxes for kids, where our schools that are not even close to a one-to-one, that we are working with those schools to get there, both in the ratio and the relationship, and those schools that are ready to move, that we help them to do that as well. So that's the overall story of what we would like to see in the two. I would like you to talk to another living human being about how this story fits within your own work. How do you see, whether it's one of the icons or all of the icons, how does it fit within your work? What are you supporting in the two? What are you supporting? Are you supporting the data? Are you supporting the device? Are you supporting the space? What does it look like for you and your work? Okay? Take about 2 minutes. You can talk to the same person, but I encourage you to talk to somebody different. Go.
Talking behind you.
Nick, do you want to tell us?
Well, I don't know if my work's in one of those in particular. I think think about instruction moving forward.
All of those things. If you were going to break sort of bite off one of the math features, I feel like we need the most ratios. I feel like it's just, or do you think that maybe that's not?
Yeah.
Like we have to be
prepared to support most of that.
And I was thinking about just using human resources, right? Because everybody's the middle is special, like the middle support.
Right.
You think that's sort of the requirement?
Yeah, that one around.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you gotta be a certain age before you start to
That is,
Do you feel like that's through learning, or do you feel like that's through something else?
yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. You know, so it's having those discussions.
larger scale.
And even that
I'm still not sharing.
self-aware. More important, what can I do?
The purpose?
Well, just not the purpose, but the.
Tired of being obsessed with it. We don't need to take
Yeah, we were talking
Here,
that connected one, I like that one, just because I don't know that everything will change. One teacher to
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, it definitely does, and I think there's a lot of value in sort of saying, all right, so what is it that we can work on today, right, that moves us closer rather than further away, right? How do we start looking at what moves us closer? How do we start capturing this? What do you feel like our next steps? Okay.
I don't know what your blame is at.
Some of these pieces that she's already.
Yeah, and so another difference is bring your own devices.
Yeah.
We had over 100 kids that one summer they registered, they signed up with parents, said, sure, we'll go buy them
Yeah.
computers.
Yep.
So I wonder if the difference here is as kids are getting computers, is there something about the trust and you get to take this with you? And then actually seeing it as a resource when they leave the building, it's almost a little bit empowering
Yeah.
versus the kind of, well,
Okay.
I can take this and I'm entitled to this.
Yeah.
Like they kind of
Feel
take it
like
for granted.
Yeah.
you leave that open, or does it need to get tighter on like what the computer looks like and how to move it?
25 years
Okay.
ago. Even the kind of like couching.
That's true.
Yeah. My top of my day is weird. They just go so quiet. And I'm like, where did you go? So, I mean, just no respect for the, and you know, I don't know. Now they just know
You had said, use one of these tools.
you know, I don't know.
Right.
Send any message you want.
But there was some,
Yes, right? Like given that purpose,
big technical.
Right, so like, when I speak of
I mean, that was like,
Kind of a sense of motivation and
yeah.
if we have so many that are just
Yeah.
locked up and not being used, even if
Yeah.
you can you know, it's almost like a placebo, like a,
Yeah.
there's just a token of our trust.
Yeah.
What message does it send?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
yeah, I like that a lot.
Part of that will be, I'm hoping we have at least a couple of the middle schools that'll be willing to try one
Yep.
Yeah.
versus class. Like Columbia, there's a
Yeah.
project that's close to, I don't know, there's
Right? Like, because I have access and then I have a purpose, right? So it's like both the access and the context to be able to do that together.
Try it out, come back,
They basically negotiated.
now all we're tasked with
Right,
is
sure,
sharing.
right.
Cool. I like that a lot. Excuse me.
And at first they got pushback, that's your own height, most people would get one. But there were a few people who were like, no, and you know, just a little bit of pressure, so to speak. They were like, yeah, this is really important. I did that. You know what I mean? And I wonder how there's ways to start to give more cut it off over years, or, you know what I mean? And
Right,
use it
there's
for,
gotta be, yeah, there's
you
huge
know,
sustainability
I mean-
questions, like how are you gonna renew the devices?
yeah, how do you do that? Yeah.
The what?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Rachel and I were in one of the conversations over at IT with Desmond and Steve. I mean, they've got their own money and the way they talk about formulas for distributing
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got it, you're thinking about it. So I don't have to
So I don't wanna have to think about that too.
Well, and we actually.
All right. So, because we do not have the time to go around to everybody, I'm going to tell you two things. One is if you think there is something up here that you support for more than one thing, what I would like for us to do is to either capture it in practice or to dream it up. Right? If there's something that doesn't exist yet, right, it's very difficult to capture. Right? But if there is something up here that you feel like, that's my work, that's what I do, right? I would love for you to write yourself a little note of what you would like to either capture or dream up on your last sticky note. And before you leave, I would like you to put your from sticky note up there, your to sticky note up there, and then your next. Because you do have the ability to capture or create. And what we are going to do is we are going to work through those different components and talk about what it is that it looks like and how we can do it, especially as we look toward and are building towards the following school year. I made a promise to Amy that we would look at space next and look at that physical space. How do you create that physical space to support the learning? How do we create equity with that space? How do we look at all of the components of what goes there so that we can best support that? And I'm going to make sure that you don't have a conflict so that you could be here to support us in that. But I really appreciate your time, your thinking, and your commitment to creating this together.